Yeah, so yesterday we had a podcast and we were talking. This was actually before you joined the podcast, so you might not have heard this yet, but I was talking to someone and she was running her startup. She had a corporate job, full-time corporate job, and she was doing a podcast all at the same time. And she was like, "Yeah, that's just," I was kind of saying, "Is that too much?" And she's like, "Yeah, it's definitely too much." And then if you add kind of like building in public on top of that, that's just another thing to add to the mix. So I guess how do you think about, I mean, obviously, like the job has to come first to an extent because you have to keep it, right? But I guess how do you think about building the business, the podcast, and then building in public in terms of prioritization and how much time we should be spending on those three things?
So, like, before we moved to this house, Kate and I were staying at like an Airbnb with the girls for, I don't know, it's like 3 or 4 months. It was a long time. And it's like 800 square feet. And it like sucks because like you're like living on top of each other. And we were able to do it. Like we were able to do it with very positive attitudes because we realized that we were going to be like looking to purchase a house on the tail end of that. That reason why I said that is because I feel like we can accomplish not anything, but we can like take on a lot more than is sustainable if there's like a light at the end of the tunnel. If we know that like this is only going to be for a period, like we're only going to do it for this period, and like we've kind of like organized ourselves in a way in which we can transition out of doing all these tasks. I think it's doable from that standpoint. Yeah, it's gonna suck. Like it's not going to be like the most enjoyable moment overall. I think that we'll have some moments that we really enjoy and then we look back on and say, like, man, I'm glad we did that. But I think like realizing that this is only going to be for a period makes it so much more manageable.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think that's also kind
I
of
mean, at
like
least what I'm telling myself that. I'm
that's
telling
that's
myself that.
that's what I was gonna say. I think when we're actually in it, it's gonna be like, wow, this is a lot. I mean, I agree with that. The only thing I would say is as we start our jobs, I would start to think about building in public and the podcast almost as one overarching bucket, which is content. So, basically, how do we put out content that explains the brand, I guess, entertains people, brings, puts our brand on more people's radars and brings them along on our journey with us. So I think for me, I mean, I've been posting on LinkedIn maybe like 5 days a week over the past couple months. And I mean, it's been good to an extent, but part of the reason why I'm doing that is because I have extra time. But once I start my job, I think it's going to be way more of just like posting clips from the podcast or just kind of like high level updates or releasing things like the new logo, stuff like that. So I think I just got to be more, we have to be more efficient with building in public and basically repurposing content across all these different channels.
For sure. For sure.